David Zaslav, he's shaking up the DC extended universe. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I talked about that in a separate video on the channel. We're going to talk a little bit more, me and Bob. But before we get into it, let me remind you, like the video, share it with your friends. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Because, I mean, you're here already, so you might as well just subscribe, right? It doesn't cost you a thing. Just a little click. You're right there. So did you know there was a conference call this week from Warner Brothers Discovery, Bob?
No. I've heard bits and pieces of DC news, but I haven't heard all the stuff.
Yeah, there was a big, what's how they call that? Earnings call. I think it was
right.
I think it was Thursday. I said Thursday. And I actually listened in on that. I was RJ. You might know him, the Marvel Maniac. He had a Twitter space. So I listened in a little bit on that. And then I went over to Mad Max's channel. And I listened in a little bit on his channel. They were listening to the call too.
Right.
So during that call, David Zaslav, the guy in charge of Warner Brothers Discovery, he talked about a 10-year plan, shelving the Batgirl movie and some of the other things. So we're going to read this article from Deadline, see what they have to say about it. So this is from Anthony D'Alessandro. David Zaslav talks DC, quote, 10-year plan in wake of Batgirl axing Flash still on track for release. So it says, we're not going to launch a movie until it's ready. It's a quote from David Zaslav. He says, that was pretty much Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav's answer when asked about the recent scrapping of Batgirl during an investor Q&A on the company's Q2 call. While he didn't specifically address the details of the latest Batgirl in Broglio, which greatly upset many talent reps in town, Zaslav emphasized his commitment to building a 10-year plan for DC, a la what former Disney boss Bob Iger and Marvel president Kevin Feige have built. Our ambition is to bring Warner's back and produce great, high-quality films, the CEO said. We can build a long-term, sustainable growth business out of DC. We're not releasing a film before it's ready. He added, the focus is to make these films as good as possible. Zaslav emphasized the waste of money in making expensive direct-to-streaming movies. There's no comparison when you launch a film in motion picture theaters, he said. Expensive films going to streaming can't find an economic value for that. It's not in the article here, but on the earnings call, Zaslav actually was talking about Elvis and the Batman, right? He specifically mentioned those two movies and how they went to the theater and they made a bunch of money in the theater. And then they went to like Peacock and people were very interested in the movies. And they signed up and they watched them on Peacock. And then it went to HBO Max and people were interested in the movies there and they watched them there. And that's the plan going forward. He wants to release these big budget movies in theaters, make a bunch of money there, and then have people filter in onto the other services through the Warner Brothers Discovery umbrella and make money that way. He said that, the movies that they've tried already to go straight to HBO Max and stuff, they're not generating any interest. Like that American Pickle with Seth Rogen. He's like, no one's signing up to watch these movies because people, there's a stigma. I don't know if you think this way or not, but there is sort of a stigma between like something that's made for TV, a made for TV movie, or a made for streaming service movie.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
So they're not seen as being as good, and you're not going to make a $300 million picture for a streaming service, right? Because the return on investment's never going to be there. So it's going to be a smaller scale movie, which is going to lead to, again, the perception that they're crappier movies, and then people aren't going to want to watch them anyway. It's like it's cyclical, right? It just goes round and round. So he wants to make big budget movies, release them in theaters, and fucking make all kind of money that way. And that's one of the reasons why they shelved the Batgirl and Scoob. It says Zaslav also indicated there will be a number of movies being launched within shorter windows. We'll always be agile, he said, but the focus will always be on theatrical. Deadline previously reported that Batgirl was killed by Warner Discovery for several reasons, upsetting the DC multiverse that's being mapped out heading into Flash next summer, the abandonment of made-for-HBO Max movies, and taking advantage of a purchase accounting maneuver available to the newly merged conglomerate. Batgirl, Leslie Grace responds to Warner Discovery's script. I hate when they got ads in the middle of the fucking article.
They gotta make their money somehow.
Yeah, but it's for their own article. It's going to be a click to a link to another article. Despite the tabloid mishaps of Flash star Ezra Miller, Zaslav made it known Thursday that he's still behind the movie. We have seen The Flash, Black Adam, and Shazam 2, the CEO said. We are very excited about them. We've seen them. We think they are terrific, and we think we can make them even better. I think this is the line that people are missing, that we think that we can make them even better, right? I have a feeling that they're going to do something to the Flash movie, whether it's digitally alter Ezra Miller, remove him from the movie,
reshoots,
CGI someone else in,
editing.
Yeah, because I mean, Black Adam is going to release later this year, right? How much more can you do to that? Shazam 2 is early next year. There might be some things you can add, but the Flash keeps getting pushed back, and they're talking about they changed the Aquaman 2 end credit scene with Batman. They took out Michael Keaton, put in Ben Affleck because that Flash has been pushed after Aquaman 2. And I guess in the Flash, Michael Keaton was set to come out and be Batman. And it's part of the multiverse thing. And they said, it doesn't make sense now to have Aquaman 2, which is originally supposed to come out after the Flash. That's why Michael Keaton's in the movie. But now, without the Flash movie, the Michael Keaton thing doesn't make sense, especially since the Batgirl is not coming out either, which had Michael Keaton. So they put in Ben Affleck, and I think they're going to change some of the stuff in the Flash movie so they could reset the universe and focus on Black Adam, Shazam, and the Justice Society. That's just mine.
It just makes me laugh. It makes me laugh because this is just like reflecting the comic books, isn't it? Marvel never does reboots and DC does reboots. So the Flash is going to be like a massive continuity reboot. So it's like reflecting what happens in the comic books. Yeah.
Joshua Perez says, so DC has their own studio now. They were listed when they had several, what the fuck they call those things? Come on, Bob, help me out. Slides. On one of their slides, they had the list of the studios, and they had DC listed as a studio.
Oh.
They didn't specifically talk about it. They were like, oh, now DC's got its own studio, but it was listed there. So that could be an indication that they're going to treat DC like how Marvel has their own studio. DC's going to have its own dedicated division.
Right. This
is untrue. It says, did you see WB and Discovery possibly wanting to assign shows depending on what gender you're at? That's not what it was said. There was a slide where they were talking about the content and who primarily watches it. They were saying that the Discovery content was primarily watched by females, whereas the HBO Max content is primarily watched by the males. And then they listed certain shows, like the most popular shows, right? And, because Discovery has a lot of unscripted content, reality TV, and traditionally that is more female viewed. And the HBO Max had other things listed that were more scripted content, and those were traditionally male viewed things. They weren't like trying to say that we're going to make shows and we're going to do this. They were just showing what it was, and, they're breaking down their things for the investors and stuff, right? So. And then, of course, people see it, they run with it, and they make up their own narrative and stuff. It's quite ridiculous.
Yeah. Just want to say sorry. Yeah, just another view. You're right. Marvel has done reboots, but generally, I think Marvel reboots are considered more soft reboots, and like DC goes a lot harder with their reboots.
Well, DC traditionally has done a whole bunch of reboots. Marvel was one continuity. That was like their thing. And DC was like, the books didn't necessarily have a continuity because they would have like All-Star Superman. They would do like weird things and stories would get thrown out all the time. Like, oh, that story didn't actually happen or it happened on a different Earth. And eventually, they folded things into one universe, Crisis on Infinite Earths. They did all kind of shit. Whereas Marvel traditionally didn't do that. Then Marvel started doing it, right?
Mm.
Yeah, no problem myself in comics. Like I said, it was just a simple graphic. I seen it and it just had the shows. If I find it, I'll put it up. Let's get through the end of the story. Deadline heard recently from those who saw a test market screening of Flash that it's indeed amazing, especially as it involves Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton's Batman in a multiverse on par with Spider-Man No Way Home. The Flash will be released on June 23rd, while Black Adam with Dwayne Johnson will hit theaters October 21st, and Shazam! Fury of the Gods will be released on December 21st.
Hey,